All right, week 10 college football breakdown. Really good SEC battle in prime time. We got Alabama traveling to Death Valley and taking on LSU. Both these teams are off a bye, both well rested, so hopefully get a good game here. Seeing the Tide on the road in Death Valley as a 13.5-point favorite. Pretty standard total by my estimation, 56.5. Alabama finds themselves in another role where they're expected to win by margin on the road. And as is well covered, they haven't necessarily been great in this role over the past 2 years. You remember last year, won by 2 at Florida, should have lost at Auburn, did lose at Texas A&M, looked pretty shaky on the road last year. That's really kind of carried over into this 2022 season. They should have lost at Texas. They did lose at Tennessee. So Alabama is not this dominant force on the road that they once were. I've had some pretty strong takes about this LSU team, though. I came out in the preseason and said they were a 5-6 win team. We'll see how they finish down the stretch of the season. I will say that I'm still not sold on areas of this LSU team. It's indisputable that they are starting a walk-on running back. Their offensive line is incredibly young, and they've proven to be vulnerable at many points throughout the season. I mean, let's just look at that matchup. LSU's offensive line, which has been poor at times on multiple occasions this year, going up against Will Anderson, Dallas Turner, that Alabama front seven. Does that seem like a good matchup? It's definitely not. Defensively, I mean, yeah, they're LSU. They're obviously going to step up within their defensive front for this matchup, but that secondary is still not at 100% strength. They lost Sevyn Banks earlier in the season, lost Major Burns. They've been gettable in their secondary, since each of those guys went down. Who you playing? You're playing the reigning Heisman Trophy winner in Bryce Young. I will say this, Bryce Young is not having as dominant of a year as people will lead you to believe he is. He's under 9 yards per attempt. There is a lot to like about the Bama offense, though. I mean, Jahmyr Gibbs has been a great addition. He really brings a lot of explosiveness in that running back room and as a receiver out of the backfield. Both of those were things that Bama just didn't have last year with Brian Robinson Jr. But when there's, two goods like that, the wide receivers just haven't held up that Alabama standard this year. Kobe Prentice is still a young player. Jermaine Burton was never going to be this superstar plug-and-play addition that I think some people made him out to be. I mean, and then you look at their secondary, I don't really trust them in some one-on-one matchups. If we get Kayshon Boutt's best, if we get Jere Jenkins' best, Malik Neighbors, LSU's got some guys out wide too that can go toe-to-toe with this Bama secondary. There's enough that I'm still concerned about with Alabama to where I am going to hold off them in this matchup. But as football, often gets played out, it starts up front. Clearly that favors Bama, especially their D-line going up against LSU's offensive line. I know LSU's playing a lot better in recent weeks, and you have to respect that. Still think they're a team led by a first-year head coach that inherited a pretty questionable roster. I would certainly lean Alabama, but it's not something I'm really running to the window to play. And, ultimately, I don't think I will play it. The total does seem a little bit low. This total would imply it's going to be a 35-21 type of game. It seems low on the surface just because you think of Alabama, you think of what they have offensively. I don't think LSU's troubles offensively are really from explosiveness. It's just establishing a consistent run game, winning up front. But at the end of the day, the more I look at it, I think 35-21 is a lot more likely than 38-28. So I think 56.5 is probably a tick low. Probably should be closer to 60, but it's not so low to where I'm running to the window to bet this game. This is also a rivalry game. Weird things happen in Alabama LSU. Lean Bama because I can't get over that matchup advantage they have in the trenches. But ultimately, there's enough keeping me off to where I don't really want to lay 2 touchdowns with them. So no play for me, but definitely lean toward the Crimson Tide. All right, before we get out of here, I know you see this shirt right here. Head over to proud90.com for all your golf apparel needs. Obviously, got very unique but comfortable polos with the colder weather coming. Great selection of hoodies and quarter zips. Go to proud90.com and browse their selection. If you see anything you like at checkout, use code Fordham. Going to get you 15% off your entire order. That's code Fordham at proud90.com is going to get you 15% off your order. Support me, support Proud90, proud90.com.